Unang araw po ng Agosto. Good morning, Malacañang Press Corps and guests. Welcome to the press briefing of Communications Assistant Secretary Chris Ablan. Good morning po, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Magandang umaga po, mayang buntag. Dagiti gagayem ken kakabsat kong taga Ilocos. Ken dadumapay nga Ilocanong agbuya, tita Facebook Live, ken PTV, ken RTVM, tita New Zealand, Australia, US, Qatar, Middle East, Europe, na imbag nga bigat kada kayo amin na po. Alright. So today we are fortunate to have Department of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Robespierre Bolivar and National Capital Region Police Office or NCRPO Regional Director, Police Director Oscar D. Albayalde, the Task Group Commander for ASEAN. They will share with us the preparations in place for the 50th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, which will be held in Manila from August 2, or tomorrow, and will end with the culminating activity on August 8. Some updates on ASEAN from our end at PCOO. It's going to be a very busy week for the ASEAN meetings starting from August 2 all the way up to August 8. As to be explained by Ambassador Robespierre later on, we have the 50th ASEAN Ministerial Meeting or AMM and post-ministerial conferences. There'll also be the 18th ASEAN Plus 3 Foreign Meeting and the 7th East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers Meeting, as well as the 24th ASEAN Regional Forum, all happening between the period of August 2 to August 8. And this will happen in the CCP area, particularly in Sofitel and PICC. On August 8, we will be celebrating the 50th year of the ASEAN, and we will have a grand commemorative celebration happening at the CCP area in front of the CCP to be led by the NCCA, among other government agencies. We'll also be having an ASEAN Pop Festival in the evening. I was also informed that all over the Philippines, the different local government units will be celebrating the 50th ASEAN anniversary with us. And I think it will be later explained by the DFA that there will be a blowing of horns all over the Philippines, so don't be alarmed. So that's all I'm trying to say. No, don't be alarmed. On August 8th, if you hear blowing of horns, it's not the end of the world. It's the celebration of the 50th ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nations. All right, having said that, ladies and gentlemen of the Malacañang Press Corps, let us all give a warm welcome to DFA spokesperson Rob Bolivar and NCRPO Chief Oscar Albayalde.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning, friends from the media. Good morning, ASEC Chris, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for promoting me. Hindi pa po ako ambassador. But as ASEC Chris mentioned, allow me to go through the preparations that we are undertaking for the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting. We are both fortunate and humbled and honored to have been the host, the chair of ASEAN during this milestone 50th anniversary. So foreign ministers and senior officials from 27 countries will gather in Manila for the 50th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting and related meetings at the Philippine International Convention Center on August 2 to 8, 2017. As ASEAN celebrates the 50th anniversary of its establishment, a grand celebration of this milestone event will be held on August 8, the founding date of ASEAN. We will have a landmark lighting at the CCP. This is going to be the culminating event of the ASEAN ministerial meetings. The annual AMM and its related meetings bring together the foreign ministers of ASEAN, ASEAN Plus 3, which is China, Japan, Korea, the East Asia Summit, and the ASEAN Regional Forum, as well as the post-ministerial conferences where ASEAN meets with each of its 10 dialogue partners. Secretary of Foreign Affairs Alan Peter S. Cayetano will chair the 50th AMM, the 18th ASEAN Plus 3 Foreign Ministers meeting, the 7th East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers meeting, and the 24th ASEAN Regional Forum, and will also lead, together with the Canadian Foreign Minister, the ASEAN-Canada Post-Ministerial Conference, because we are the outgoing country coordinator for ASEAN-Canada relations. He is also set to participate in the post-ministerial conferences with other dialogue partners. The Secretary will also lead the ASEAN Foreign Ministers in its interface with the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, as well as the meeting of the Southeast Asia Nuclear Weapons Free Zone Commission. He will also join the foreign ministers of the Southwest Pacific Dialogue for its 15th ministerial meeting. Under the Philippine chairmanship of Partnering for Change, Engaging the World, the ministers will primarily review the progress and future direction of ASEAN community building efforts. They will also exchange views on pressing regional and international developments. Before the 50th AMM and related meetings commence on August 4, preparatory meetings at the level of senior officials and the Committee of Permanent Representatives to ASEAN will take place starting tomorrow. If I may go through briefly the schedule for the entire AMM and related meetings. On tomorrow, August 2, we have a meeting of the Committee of Permanent Representatives to ASEAN. On August 3, the senior officials meeting will begin. At the end of that day, we will have the meeting of the Executive Committee of the Southeast Asia Nuclear Weapons Free Zone. This is senior officials level. We will also have the senior officials meeting of the ASEAN Plus 3, the East Asia Summit, and the ARF. On August 4, we will have the first meeting at the ministerial level, which is the SHANFES Commission, the Commission of the Southeast Asia Nuclear Weapons Free Zone. The ASEAN ministers will also have an interface with the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights representatives on August 4, and we will have a few senior officials meetings of the sub-regional groups, like the Mekong Japan senior officials meeting, the Lower Mekong Initiative, etc. On August 5, we have the formal opening ceremony of the 50th ASEAN Ministerial Meeting, and we are hoping that the President will be able to grace this occasion to address the ministers at the opening of the AMM. We also have scheduled all the meetings related to the AMM, including the retreat session and the plenary, as well as the launching of the ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation publication entitled Symposium on Principles, Mechanisms, and Practices of Peace and Reconciliation Processes. On August 6, we have scheduled all the post-ministerial conferences, the whole day, and also the ministerial level meetings of the sub-regional groupings, including the Southwest Pacific Dialogue, which the Secretary is going to attend. On August 7, we have a continuation of some of the sub-regional meetings. We also have the ASEAN Plus 3 Foreign Ministers meeting, the East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers meeting, and the ASEAN Regional Forum. On August 8, as we mentioned earlier, we have the grand celebration of the 50th anniversary of ASEAN and the closing ceremony of the 50th ASEAN Ministers meeting. Now, before I turn over the mic, let me just highlight a few of the milestones that we are celebrating as Philippines as member of ASEAN, which may not be that well known to the public. The first Secretary General of ASEAN from the Philippines was Ambassador Narciso Reyes on July 1, 1980. The Philippines led in the adoption of the Manila Declaration during the Philippine chairmanship of the Third ASEAN Summit in Metro Manila in 1987. The Manila Declaration aimed to foster closer political and economic cooperation among its member states and dialogue partners. Ambassador Rodolfo Severino became the second Filipino to serve as Secretary General of ASEAN in January 1998, 18 years later. The Philippines spearheaded the establishment of the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity in 2005 at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, during the 9th informal ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on the Environment. The ACB, as it is called, is the first regional initiative that aims to preserve the rich biodiversity of ASEAN. And lastly, the Philippines took the lead in the adoption of the landmark ASEAN Declaration on the Protection and Promotion of the Rights of Migrant Workers during the 12th ASEAN Summit in 2007. The ASEAN Declaration on the Protection and Promotion of the Rights of Migrant Workers provides protection to documented migrant workers and their families in the region. So mga kababayan, marami po tayong isa-celebrate at the 50th anniversary. And all of these were the contributions, the significant contributions, among others, of the Philippines to this regional grouping. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Spokesperson Bolivar. May we now call on General Albayalde po.
Thank you po. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat ulit. I did not prepare a press statement, but what has already been said, of course, we'll be celebrating the 50th ASEAN 50th Foreign Ministers meeting this coming August 2 to 8, no? And we have actually started preparations on security matters since last year for this big event, no? And we have already monitored arrivals from some delegates who will be billeted in 21 hotels here in Metro Manila, particularly in parts of Parañaque, Pasay, and Makati. No? And we'll be expecting around 1,700 visitors here, VIPs. So this is practically a very huge task for us, where we will be utilizing more or less 13,000 uniformed personnel here with 1,286 attached personnel from other agencies. So as of this time, we have already our skeletal deployment in some hotels because, as I've said earlier, about 24 delegates from some countries have already arrived. So we have deployment in some billets or in some hotels already. And of course, our route securities are in place. And we expect, as earlier said, huge participation coming August 8, where there will be a parade, no, for the ceremonial lighting of ASEAN lantern from Luneta or Kilometer Zero going to CCP Complex at around 4 p.m. in the afternoon, followed by a concert at the amphitheater in BGC in the evening. So these are all the activities that we are preparing. And actually, we have made walkthroughs since yesterday with the other security officers of ASEAN ministers. And I think with all the preparations that we've made, the country is very much ready to host this 50th Foreign Ministers meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Police Director Albayalde, for giving us the updates. Hopefully, it's not going to be that traffic around the Rojas Boulevard and CCP area, because I passed that route. All right, this is not Mindanao Our Day, but I'll give you some updates on what's happening in Marawi. Today is August 1, day 71 of the rebellion in Marawi. Data as of 1900 or 7 p.m., 31 July 2017. Number of enemy killed, 502. There are 11 additional enemies killed. Civilians killed, non-combatants, there's 45. Firearms recovered, we have an increase of 8 firearms, so that the total is now 592. Civilians rescued, 1,724. Buildings cleared, 4. And as of July 30, 15, so killed in action, we have 114 of our soldiers. In addition to that, before we proceed with the open forum, this coming Friday, we will be having a We Build Marawi forum, which the PCOO is organizing together with Task Force Bangon Marawi, or TFBM, which is headed by Undersecretary Cesar Yano. As you understand, As you know, the task force is broken down with several subcommittees, a subcommittee on livelihood, a subcommittee on housing, a subcommittee on peace and order, and a new subcommittee on information. And so you will be meeting the different designated undersecretaries of this particular subcommittees to explain to the public what's happening in Marawi and how are we rebuilding in the city. You've noticed that starting last Friday, we've invited Assistant Secretary Toby Purisima of the OCD, who is the Deputy of Undersecretary Yano and the TFBM spokesperson, and who attends now the Mindanao Hour briefings on Monday and Friday to brief the public regarding not just what's happening on the ground with our soldiers, but how is the government rebuilding the city of Marawi. With that, we'd like to open the floor for your questions, which I hope I can fill in for Spokesman Abelia. If not, we have the DFA spokesperson and the NCRPO Director in charge of ASEAN.
Okay, thank you po, ASEC. First question goes to Tuesday New of DZBB.
Good morning, sirs. To Director Albayalde, sir. Sir, on the security for the ASEAN, how will you ensure, sir, na walang mangyayaring mga insidente of some sort of terroristic activities on the ASEAN events, katulad nung nakaraan na may mga pagsabog sa Quiapo, though hindi naman siya related to the ASEAN, pero yung assurance for our visitors, sir?
Well, yung actually 100% foolproof, no? Hindi natin pa masabi yan, not unless na matapos yung ASEAN without any incident whatsoever. But we have done our part. The preparations have been made since last year. I think with all our efforts, no, we are very much ready to secure the leaders, yung mga ministers coming here. We have task groups actually ng peace and order, tsaka yung sa security. The peace and order will be handling dun sa ibang concern natin, like yung mga target hardening measures natin that we have to undertake, yung mga operations natin related dito sa gaganaping ASEAN meeting, no? Hindi lang kasi pagsisecure ng mga leaders ang ginagawa natin dito, kung hindi yung pati yung mga target hardening measures natin, like we conduct the one-time big-time operations sa mga critical areas and other areas that we suspect to be being utilized as lairs or safe houses of suspected threat groups, no? As of this time, so far wala naman tayong nakukuhang threat. Although we're monitoring all these critical areas, yung mga enclaves na sinasabi rin natin, no? At we're monitoring some groups who are actually present here in Metro Manila, who are Balik Islam, and other former members of the ABB who suspectedly nagbalik Islam, no? So these are all being monitored in relation to this meeting.
Yes, sir. Follow-up lang po. Any info, sir, na baka may MAOTE members na nakarating dito sa Metro Manila?
With regards to the specific group na MAOTE, no? Wala tayong nakukuha, especially those coming from Mindanao, or particularly in Marawi, for that matter. Ang tinitignan lang naman natin ngayon dito is yung mga, as I've said earlier, yung mga former members ng mga ABB na nagbalik Islam. So ito yung mga present dito sa NCR. But as of this time, wala naman tayong namomonitor na movement nila that would probably disrupt this ASEAN meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Next question, Chris.
Sir, kasama rin po ba dun sa ginawa niyong paghahanda yung mga street children's ambulant vendors?
No, the street children will be taken care of by the DSWD. Of course, yung lead agency dyan is the DSWD with assistance from our office and probably from MMDA.
Makikita po ba natin sila sa streets, sa mga daan na maaaring daanan na ating mga bisita, sir?
Most probably, mukhang hindi siguro, no? Baka dalhin sila doon sa mga bahay bata o doon sa mga facilities ng DSWD.
In short, sir, itatago muna sila pansamantala.
I really don't know. We have no arrangement as of this time with the DSWD. Wala naman rin request yung DSWD. And if we'll see naman, yung dadaanan nila, basically the Rojas Boulevard, wala naman na tayong nakikitang mga batang nagkakalat sa kalsada dyan.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Chris Jose of Remate. Next question, Patricia Manguni of TV5.
Hi sir, good morning po.
Yes.
Sir, ano po yung mga road closures meron po ba and rerouting?
Yes, that will be announced by the MMDA probably starting this week, no? Dahil although yung mga pagdating nila there will be no road closures except of course yung vicinity ng PICC, CPP Complex and Sofitel, no? But on August 8 yung parada, the ceremonial lighting ng ASEAN Lantern coming from Luneta or Kilometer Zero going to CCP Complex, that portion yung papuntang Cavite or south, no, going south, it will be closed. It will be closed. Probably 1 or 2 hours before the start of the parade.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next question. Yes, ma'am. Microphone, please.
Good morning, Celerina Monte from the Daily Manila Shimbun. Sir, specifically, what are these enclaves that you are monitoring? And if ever, how many Balik Islam or this ABB that you're also monitoring?
Well, there are just a few, no? A few people lang naman ito. Tinitingnan natin na minomonitor, continuously being monitored by our intelligence operatives both from the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police. Yung mga tinatawag nating mga critical areas, of course, o yung mga enclaves na pwedeng pagpugaran ng yung mga suspected terror groups, most critical of which, of course, yung sa Maharlika, na napakalaking village niyan, no? And dito sa Manila, City of Manila, yung Quiapo and dun sa Baseco compound, yun ang mga tinitignan natin ngayon, no? Although wala naman tayo talagang namomonitor. But then again, we have to conduct these target hardening measures to prevent any untoward incident for this ASEAN meeting.
Okay. Next question, Laila Salivaria.
First spokesperson Bolivar. Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
good morning, morning.
Sir, the foreign ministers are expected to endorse the framework on the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. Following this, sir, what's next and how much closer are we now to having an actual binding Code of Conduct in the South China Sea?
Yeah, okay, thank you for your question. First and foremost, let me just say again that we have a commitment from ASEAN and China to finalize, to approve the framework of the Code of Conduct within the chairmanship year of the Philippines, which is this year. So we expect, having said that, we expect that the foreign ministers will endorse the framework as it is currently approved by the senior officials in last May, to endorse it during their meeting on August 6 in Manila. And then your next question is, where do we go from here? The framework basically presents an outline of the Code of Conduct. So after it is endorsed, after the approvals process has been dealt with, we expect that there will the talks on the actual Code of Conduct will begin in earnest.
But do we have a timeline on when we at least hope to see the actual Code of Conduct?
We don't want to put a time frame on that but definitely it will begin as soon as the approvals process of the framework is over.
Sir, kasi it took 15 years from the first joint declaration to come up with a framework. So while we're still the ASEAN chair, is there anything that we're going to do to make sure, to hasten, or maybe not hasten, but to see to it that the code of conduct will come sooner rather than later?
Well, this is actually a very big step that we have a framework that will be endorsed by the ministers in a few days. As you may recall, there was a different strategic environment in 2002 when we adopted the Declaration of Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. For this particular year, in fact, since late last year, we have a commitment from ASEAN and China to complete this framework, and this is already a major step towards realizing the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Yes. Microphone, please.
Hello, sir. Huang Zhenzhen from China Central Television. I would like to know, because Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, he visited the Philippines last week, and he will come to join the ASEAN AMM next week. So I would like to know what kind of achievement you expect between the meetings, between China and the ASEAN countries.
Well, first and foremost, we expect that the ministers will issue two outcome documents. The first one being the framework of the Code of Conduct. The second one being the extension of the ASEAN-China Center. I believe there will be a signing ceremony for the MOU on the extension of the mandate of the ASEAN-China Center. And that is a very concrete manifestation of the renewed commitment between ASEAN and China to further strengthen the partnership.
Okay. Can you give us some details about the ASEAN-China Center?
The ASEAN, we have centers between ASEAN and several dialogue partners. So the ASEAN-China Center is responsible for facilitating functional cooperation between ASEAN and China, academic, science and technology, cultural exchanges. So we have an institution, if you will, that facilitates this cooperation, and that is the center. And the ministers have decided to renew the mandate of the center because I believe it expired late last year.
Okay, so because China has the One Belt, One Road Cooperation Initiative, which we call OBO here, and China always said the Asian countries are all the important part of this cooperation. So as a chair country this year for the Philippines, do we have any plan to push this kind of cooperation blueprint to the practical actions?
Well, as mentioned during the press conference of Foreign Minister Wang Yi and the Secretary Cayetano last week, we try to find convergences between our own national development plans, President Duterte's 10-point socio-economic agenda, and our Ambition Natin 2040. We try to find convergences between our priorities and the One Belt, One Road initiative of China. Having said that, I'm sure the other ASEAN member states are doing the same thing. And I'm sure that the One Belt, One Road initiative will be part of the discussions on the economic cooperation during the AMM and related meetings.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Arisa Saludo from Fuji TV. Sir, last week, representatives from the DPRK went here. It was that Foreign Minister Ri Yong Ho. Is that confirmed?
Vice Foreign Minister.
Vice Foreign Minister
Yes.
Yong. Will they be attending the ASEAN, the AMM and the ASEAN summit this coming August?
The Foreign Minister of the DPRK has confirmed attendance to the ASEAN Regional Forum next week.
Next week.
7 on the 6th.
Right. How many delegates will come from the DPRK?
I don't have the exact numbers, but definitely Foreign Minister will be here. Most likely the Vice Foreign Minister will also be here to accompany his minister. Just to clarify that DPRK is here as a member of the ASEAN Regional Forum. They will not be here, or we don't expect them to be here at the summit in November because we don't have an ARF summit.
Again, it's
ARF
just-
is only at the minister's level.
That's right. So, are we going to have bilateral talks with the DPRK as well, or do you have anything?
We don't have any arrangements for that as of this time.
As of this time. All right. Another question for General Albayalde. Sir, I just wanted to know if there are like roadblocks along the area in CCP wherein traffic will be, I don't know, blocked or whatever.
Yes, there will be lockdown along the vicinity of the CCP complex, the PICC and Sofitel. This will start probably this tomorrow, no? When our delegates will be starting to arrive. But then with the roadblocks on other streets from Makati to PICC, there will be no roadblocks. Except, of course, when the minister will be passing by, no, there will be momentarily, the traffic will be momentarily stopped until the minister would pass by. There will be no lockdowns here. Except, as I've said earlier, during the parade on August 8th.
Are we going to be provided with a map of some
Yes,
sort?
the MMDA will be providing the, will be issuing the public information on this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am, at the back.
To Mr. Bolivar. Sir, there was this report regarding this draft, supposedly draft foreign minister's statement. According to reports, it would be a watered-down statement, not to include, to mention the militarization in the South China Sea. What is the likelihood that this draft would be changed and there would be like a stronger statement against China's activities in the South China Sea?
Thank you for that. Let me just put it in context. We are expected, the ministers are expected to issue several documents during the course of the week. There's the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting Joint Communique, which is a negotiated statement, negotiated among the 10 member states of ASEAN. And then the chairman's statements for the East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers Meeting, the various post-ministerial conferences, the ASEAN +3 Foreign Ministers Meeting, and the ASEAN Regional Forum. So aside from the AMM, which is a negotiated joint communique, all the others are chairman's statements. Now, I don't think we can comment as yet on whether the draft you say is circulating is an actual draft, is an accurate draft, because these drafts evolve very quickly. We are a few days away from AMM and the related meetings. So there are now more enhanced, more vigorous consultations among the ASEAN member states, and then, of course, with the dialogue partners for their respective chairman statements. So we'll just have to wait until we actually see the joint communique or the chairman's statement to see what actually comes out. But as chair, it is our role to make sure that there is an accurate reflection of what was discussed during these meetings.
Sir, how many foreign ministers will be attending in this meeting?
The most number of foreign ministers would be at the ASEAN Regional Forum. We expect 27 ASEAN and dialogue partner and ARF member foreign ministers.
So all represented, sir?
Yes, they have all confirmed attendance.
Thank you. Mr. Henry Uri of DZRH.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Based on the schedule of ASEAN activities, when and what particular event will the President attend during the events?
We have invited the President to address the foreign ministers during the opening of the AMM, which is on August 5, the formal opening. And I believe we are trying to arrange a courtesy call of the foreign ministers on the President.
Wala pa pong confirmation kung a-attend siya or what?
I believe there is a confirmation, but you would have to check with the palace on that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sir, good morning. Ron of Kyoto News. Sir, can you just give us a preview of how the South China Sea issue will be tackled, as well as the North Korean ballistic missile activities will be discussed during these meetings? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks, Ron. In many of these meetings, AMM, ARF, East Asia Summit, and a few of the post-ministerial conferences, we expect an exchange of views on regional and international security issues of concern. And since the issues you mentioned are a concern for several countries in the region, then we expect a candid and free flow of discussions during that time on these issues.
Okay, thank you. Last 6 questions, Tina Mendez.
Good morning, sir. May we have update on the bicameral consultative mechanism set up last May in Guyang Province? Ano na bang developments at this point?
The bilateral consultative mechanism between the Philippines and China, this is a mechanism we set up after the state visit of President Duterte to China last year. It is set up primarily to discuss issues of concern in the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea. So this is the mechanism that we have, that we convene on a regular basis to discuss these issues of concern. As you mentioned, they have had the first meeting in May in China, and we are now organizing the subsequent meetings of the bilateral consultative mechanism.
So no subsequent meetings were discussed?
We are quite focused on the AMM right now, but I'm sure that in the course of the year after the AMM, we will try to schedule another meeting of the bilateral consultative mechanism.
Okay, next question, Joseph Morong of GMA 7.
Kaya Sec Kaplan po, sir.
Hi.
Kaya Sec Kaplan.
Sorry.
Para makaupo naman kayo, sir. Sir, just a couple of things. The UN High Commission on Human Rights released a statement calling on the President to address the growing reports of human rights violations, including threats against indigenous peoples and the summary execution of children. I sent the link to the statement to you. Any
Yes.
reaction from the palace, please?
Yes, I just read this statement from the UNHR, specifically the experts, including the Special Rapporteur, Ms. Calamard. It's a very strongly worded statement, and we anticipate a more detailed report regarding the allegations mentioned here in the report. The article, rather. The article mentions that the UN human rights experts has been in contact with the government of the Philippines regarding these concerns. We're curious what agencies of government that they coordinated with. As far as the PCO is concerned, they have OP has not been contacted by the UNHR. If it's perhaps the CHR, then we'd like to reach out to the UN to coordinate with the OP.
Okay. Sir, I remember the President extending an invitation orally, no, na kay Dr. Calamard to come over here, but on his terms, right? Like the debate sila and all that. Is that still standing, or given the new statements again of the UNHCR?
Again, it's just now that we read this statement from the UNHR experts, and I'll be coordinating with the Office of the President regarding if that invitation still stands.
Okay, sir. Second topic, sir, CPP founding chairman John Masison called the president the #1 drug addict, and if there's going to be a target of the police operations, it should be him. Any comment?
Regardless if Mr. Sison is outside of the Philippines, he remains to be a Filipino citizen. He has a constitutional right to freedom of expression. If he wants to call the president, that's within his constitutional right.
Okay, sir. Just one last.
Sure.
The Congress, Senate, and House are investigating the BOC. Any directions from the executive department as far as the officials in that bureau is concerned?
As we're speaking right now, I think the House is currently having an ongoing committee hearing on that particular issue. The Palace does not have any, it's too early for us to issue any statement.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Tina?
To General Albayalde, sir, can we just please have a clarification on your statement about the ABB joining Balik Islam. Are you referring to the Alex Bungkayo Brigade? Is
Yes.
this the arm wing of that?
Yes, we've monitored a few of them, no, who converted into Balik Islam. So as what we have observed, kung makikita nyo, yung mga extremists, no, na involved yan sa or members of the threat groups are basically, most of them are Balik Islam. Although not all Balik Islam are extremists, no. Let me make that clear. So yun ang tinitignan natin ngayon.
Sir, kailan po sila nagsama yung Alex Bungkayo Brigade members and Balik Islam?
Well,
Just recently as a result of the
Well, it
President's
started
campaign?
basically, siguro matagal na rin. It's because the ABB has been declining since a few years back, no? Medyo hindi na rin aktibo yan, and probably they're looking for another group that would probably support them. So yun yung naging option nila, that they would go to the other group. So ang option nila is for them to be converted.
Sir, as you mentioned, the ABB has been declining through the years. We are
Yes.
also surprised by this development. Can you identify leaders of this ABB joining the Balik Islam? Kasi
Well, as of this time, we cannot divulge their identities. No, these are all being monitored by our intelligence operatives.
Are these old members of the ABB, I mean the elders, or new members? Because even when I was in high school, may ABB na.
Yes, yung mga marami kasi diyan wala na, halos yung mga most of them are went back to the folds of the law or sa gobyerno, nag-surrender na, no. Ito yung mga may mga datihan na rin, no, although they went low, no, they lied low. So ito ngayon yung mga baka nakita kasi nila, ito yung parang sumisikat ngayon, no, especially yung alam natin nangyayari sa Mindanao, yung Mauti groups, most of them are Balik Islam. So yun yung most probably naging option nila to be active again.
Sir, one last question. We know there's martial law in Mindanao, and the President has declared a war against extremist terrorism. And with that recent developments, failure ng peace talks with the NPA, how would you give the assurance to the public that the connection between the ABV and violent extremism is not just a ploy to go after the left-leaning groups?
Well, yung yung coalition or probably yung relation, yung affiliation, or probably yung what would say connection between the CPP-NPA at saka itong mga threat groups ngayon, no, that has not been validated yet, no. Yung mga information na yon is yet to be confirmed. Wala tayong confirmation whatsoever dun sa pag-join ng forces ng CPP-NPA and the Muslim extremists. Wala pa yon. Hindi pa natin na monitor. Although we're looking into that. No, there's a possibility kung sasabihin mo, there's that possibility. Pero iba kasi ang pinupush na, well, what they say, ideology, kung meron man sila, ng Muslim extremists at saka ng CPP-NPA.
Okay, thank you. Last 3 to 4 questions. Tuesday New of DZBB.
Sir, to Director Albayalde. So yung sabi ng Al Jazeera, may na-interview sila ng mga fishermen saying na yung Manila Bay tapunan daw po ng maraming mga patay from pinatay because of transactions sa illegal drugs. Is this happening, sir? At saan nangyayari? Sakop ba ng NCRPO yung mga ganyang incidents na tinatapon daw sa Manila Bay?
Well, as of this time, no, we have not received any report of recovery of dead bodies in Manila Bay. I don't know where they got that information. Since the start of the war on drugs, wala pa tayong na-recover na patay sa Manila Bay whatsoever. Except of course yung dun sa may bandang Tondo, I don't know if it's part of the Manila Bay, hindi yata kasi that's just a river. Remember yung pinatay nung isang civilian volunteer group na 17 years old, na ginagamit nila for their illegal activity like pushing ng drugs. Nung hindi na makapag-deliver yung bata, ay pinatay nila. But yun pa lang ang alam namin na drug-related na na-recover sa isang river, not in Manila Bay. So far, wala tayong na-recover in Manila Bay.
Yes,
not
sir.
even a single dead body.
Okay, another, sir, narco-politicians, sir, in Metro Manila, mayroon ba kayo na monitor? Mayroon na ba kayong mga under surveillance na mga narco-politicians dito sa NCRPO?
Kung sa level ang pinag-uusapan, no, if we'll talk about the list of the president, mayors pataas, wala dun sa listahan niya, but barangay captains down, we have councilors, of course, yes, mga city councilors meron, no, dun sa original or dun sa list nung coming from the president, meron. And remember, here in Metro Manila, we have arrests barangay officials already involved in illegal drugs. So it's not far-fetched that there are still or there are more politicians, probably barangay councilor or city councilors down, are still involved in illegal drugs, and some probably will just be involved in protection dahil alam naman natin kung minsan, no, this politics in our country. So kung minsan kahit mali na yung ginagawa ng isang tao, because of the vote, tinotolerate ng ating mga local officials.
But none from the mayoral team?
Walang nakalist from mayor pataas. We have no list. Walang kasama dun sa listahan na from mayor pataas.
Last, sir, from my end. Chief PNP, Director General Bato de la Rosa, sabi niya kahapon, bibigyan ng 15 days ang lahat ng RDs na ipatigil ang illegal gambling. Sisibakin daw niya mga RDs, sir, pag hindi ito na gawa in 15 days. Kakayanin mo ba, sir, RD?
Yes, of course. No, we will follow the orders of the Chief PNP. Actually, that is true because remember the STL has started. Here in Metro Manila, we have already 3 companies that have started with their STL operations, no. So ang ginagawa natin dito, basta nanghuhuli tayo, but then in a few days back, ang nahuhuli din yung mga nag-STL mismo. So this is one way of seeing to it na sila talaga ang legal, no? Kasi pwede kasi nilang bukisan din, tama yung sinabi ng Chief PNP, na pwede nilang bukisan din yung sarili nila, no? Just to earn. Kasi napakalaki ang kailangan nilang bayaran sa PCSO, no? So, yun ang tinitingnan din natin. Here in Metro Manila, may 3 na in Southern, na Northern, and Quezon City. Meron ng 3 ang accredited na STL operators, company STL operators.
And will you also look into some, sabi nga nila, sir, protector na mga mas matataas na opisyal dito sa mga illegal gambling operators?
Yes, that will be a part of our counterintelligence effort. No? Meron tayong CITF. I think that will be a part of their mission also na tignan din yung mga tumatanggap or nagbibigay ng proteksyon. No? At sabi nga ni Chief PNP, yung RD can always relieve his provincial directors or district directors, and the district directors or the PDs can always relieve their chiefs of police kung kinakailangan. At kung mapatunayan na sila ay nagbibigay ng proteksyon dito sa mga illegal gambling na to.
Thank you, sir.
Microphone, please.
Sir, Cliff
Hi,
Benson
Cliff.
from Nikkei. Sir, I think last month there was a trilateral meeting between among Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia on the issue of terrorism. This time, how will ASEAN tackle the issue, considering that there's an ongoing crisis in Marawi? Do we expect an ASEAN-wide discussion? And what kind of outcome do we expect?
Well, thank you, Cliff. Definitely, counterterrorism and countering violent extremism is high on the agenda of ASEAN. And we expect the ministers to have a fairly extensive discussion on the topic. It's good that you mentioned that. Under the auspices of the ASEAN Regional Forum, last February, the Philippines and the European Union co-chaired a workshop on mainstreaming countering violent extremism. in Brussels. So that's part of the commitment of the Philippines as chair and of the European Union as co-chair to find a way for ARF and ASEAN as well to cooperate in addressing violent extremism and terrorism. And we also have a very active intersessional meeting on counterterrorism and transnational crime in ARF. And we expect these intersessional meetings to report to the ministers the outcomes of their activities for the last year. And also, we expect the ministers to approve activities that are planned for the next intersessional year, so from August to the next year.
Sir, do we expect a separate statement or joint statement about terrorism alone? I mean, dedicated to terrorism, especially with what's happening in Marawi?
I think there is one in the works, but I cannot really go into the details yet as of now, but I think that's one of the expected outcome documents.
Sure. Sir, another question.
Okay, sure.
What are the bilateral meetings scheduled for Secretary Cayetano? Specifically, will there be a bilateral meeting between him and Secretary Tillerson of the United States?
It's normal for visiting foreign ministers to meet with the chair of ASEAN. But as of this point, we are still fixing the schedules of the bilateral meetings. So as soon as we have something confirmed, we will share it with you.
Thank you, sir.
Last two questions, Joseph Morong of GMA7 and Alvin Baltazar of Radyo Pilipinas.
Okay, Director Albayalde po.
Musical chairs.
You should have a long table next time, I think. Sir, dun sa ABB lang, why would they join Balik Islam?
Well, probably for unang-una yan, suporta. No? Kailangan din nila kasi mag-survive. No? Yung, usually, yung iba, there's a monetary consideration there already. Like yung mga recruitment ngayon, no? Unlike noon, talagang merong ideology silang pinag-uusapan. Nowadays, meron ding mga monetary consideration na yan. No? Isa yon. That's one. No? That's one. That, yung isang malaking factor yon. Yes.
Support to do what, sir? Support to do what? What kind of activities?
Well, depende. No? Depende kasi yan. Kung ano yung activity, probably alam naman natin kung ano activity ng mga ABB before. Mga involved yan sa liquidation. No? Basically, those are the liquidation squad of the CPP and PA before. No? Or probably they can be trained also. They can be trained on other things. No? So ito yung tinitignan natin talaga. Although most of the ABBs before are involved only in liquidation.
How big is this organization?
The monitor natin is just a few. Itong
Just
kasi
a handful.
halos wala na ito halos wala na ito and most of them and these were before this the ABB were very active dun sa Nueva Ecija before yun ang tinitingnan natin. May mga members before from Nueva Ecija noon ng ABB na very active at doon sila medyo marami.
What could they do now? Why are you interested in them again? What could they do now? Specific in the context of the ASEAN meet, what do you think can they do?
Well, hindi naman most probably related sa ASEAN ang gagawin nila. But what we're avoiding here is any incident, even outside the venue or even outside dito sa Parañaque or Pasay kung saan. No? Like what happened before doon sa Quiapo, then people will always relate things that would happen outside the venue doon sa ASEAN. So yun ang iniiwasan natin. That's why we have this target hardening measures that we conduct all over Metro Manila. No? Ayaw kasi natin magkaroon ng isang incident that would that probably people would relate it to the ongoing ASEAN.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
After Alvin, Henry Uri, last. Okay, thank you. Alvin.
General Bayalde, magandang umaga po. Sir, ihabol ko lang po. Sir, paano nyo tinitimbang yung kaso ni PO2 Tantayon? Ano pong update ngayon? Kasi apparently talagang pinoprovoke din siya ng mga bata, yung dalawang magkapatid. Anong update doon sa kaso ni PO2 Tantayon?
he's facing pa pre-charge evaluation, no? After the pre-charge evaluation, kung meron talagang evidence laban sa kanya, then he'll be facing the summary hearing procedure already, no? Although nakikita natin even the netizens, no, bumaligtad yung ano nila, pananaw nila na talagang na-provoke sila nitong mga bata na to, no? And apparently medyo walang galang talaga sa nakakatanda lumabas itong mga bata na to, no? So, but PO2 Taytayon filed charges against those two kids, and the parent of those two kids also filed the counter charge naman dun sa kay PO2 Taytayon. And PO2 Taytayon is now presently assigned with the regional personnel holding and accounting unit sa Camp Bagong Diwa, no? And he was relieved of his firearms and badge while the investigation is going on.
Okay. Thank you. Henry Uri, last.
General Albayalde, all of a sudden biglang nabuhay ho yung ABB, ano po, and based on your statement, kilala ito sa liquidation and assassination. Sir, any intel report of possible assassination on the President?
On?
Possible assassination ng ABB sa Presidente? Any intel report?
Wala whatsoever, no. Ang na-monitor naman natin dito is a few, maybe around mga more or less mga 2 pa lang naman nakikita natin dito, and tinitignan nga natin yung ibang grupo pa nila kasi these were inactive for so many years already, itong ABB. So ito yung tinitignan nga natin. But with regards to the assassination particularly, and even with other political leaders or politicians, wala tayong na-monitor. Ang minomonitor lang natin is yung pagpalit nila, yung pagkabalik Islam nila. That's all that we're monitoring as of this time. Kung meron pa sa kanila ang talagang, at kung ilan sa kanila ang nagbalik Islam.
Walang nakaka-alarma na galaw ng
Yes,
ABB?
wala pa. Wala. Yun lang ang tinitignan natin, yung pagpalit nila o yung pagbalik Islam nila. Yun ang tinitignan lang natin. Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Malacañang Press Corps. Thank you, Asec Ablan, General Albayalde, spokesperson Bolivar. Back to our main studios on PTV4 and Radyo Pilipinas.
Thank you.